So I know we live in a day and age now where, you know, everybody takes pictures, and, you know, for the most part, these children out here shouldn't be, you know, at a shortage for any pictures or videos of their childhood, for that matter. So when I was younger and I moved from Orangeburg, South Carolina up to the Bronx, New York, I remember not seeing many pictures of myself. My mother didn't have any. Like, you know, it was crazy. Then I remember seeing like one picture of myself, and I think it was a first grade picture, but that was like the only picture I had of myself. And as I got older and living in New York, like I did like summer camp, and we used to have to take pictures for our ID for summer camp. So I remember this one year I took a picture, and I think I have the picture still, but I just remember thinking about how cute I was until I got home and my grandmother saw the picture. And when I say she dragged me, like, y'all think that Black Twitter drags people now and Black Instagram drags people now? Ain't nothing like being dragged back in the 80s and 90s, because there was no filter on it. People didn't care if you was a child. People didn't care if you was their family. They didn't give a crap about nothing. They would drag you, and this lady dragged me. Because in the picture, I was like 7 years old, maybe 8. I think I was like 7. But, you know, it's like up to here to me. And it was at like a Woolworth or something. So it was one of those department stores, because you had to take a picture to be able to put in your ID. But you could barely see me. You just saw my eyes and you saw my teeth because I smiled. I'm very, very chocolate. And I love being chocolate. But there was a time that I was unsure of being chocolate. I won't say I hated it, but I just didn't understand why my hands weren't as white as everybody else's, and my gums weren't as white as everybody else's. I didn't understand melanin, and that there were different people in the world that looked differently. And for the most part, nobody explained that to me. It was just like, oh yeah, you black. Oh yeah, you black. And then people made fun of people who were dark. So I remember coming home with the picture. My mother showed it to my grandmother, and my grandmother was like, oh my gosh, you could barely see her in the picture. Ha, 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 laughing and showing everybody and making fun of me. And I don't think I allowed anybody to see that it hurt me. But the bigger thing was nobody asked if that hurt me. Nobody stood up for me. Nobody defended me. And it was things like that that made me feel like I was ugly. And I remember when I came up from New York, I have a picture and it's on my fridge, and y'all will see this picture a lot because I'm going to use this picture in telling my story. Because this is when I remember coming up from South Carolina, and that was one of the first photos that I took in the Bronx. And again, I'm chocolatey, and I'm chocolatey all over, okay? So in this picture, I have on some ponies, Mary Lou Retton ponies. Oh my gosh, I just thought about that. Yes, I had on Mary Lou Retton ponies. If you don't know who Mary Lou Retton is, you might want to go ahead and Google that. But she was a gymnast, and at the time, this was 1987, so there might have been an Olympics in 86. Either way, I remember watching her on the Olympics, and I was in love with this little white girl, okay? So when she came out with a deal with ponies, and my mother got me the whoever got me the Mary Lou Retton ponies, I was geeked, okay? I was like, yes. So I come up wearing that, and I had on these purple shorts and a white shirt. I had on a Lacoste shirt. So I remember my grandmother tore me up again on that photo. Oh my gosh, you could barely see her, ha ha ha. And I know that Ann, which is my mother's name, I didn't mean to say it, but anyway, it don't matter. Yeah, whoever knows me, right? I'm just talking. So I remember her saying, I know that when Ann came up here to New York, she had on ponies, but Tasha must have had on mules. And I was just like, and I still remember that, and I was just like, why is she saying that? Like, you know, why are you getting on me in that way? Because we don't have that relationship where I know that you're joking with me and you're just making fun so I can laugh with you or whatever, because she just always made fun of me. You never made me feel comfortable. So with things like that happening to me, coupled with not having any pictures, I figured, oh, you don't take pictures of somebody who's ugly, right? Doesn't that make sense? So going to other people's houses, I would see that their parents had all these pictures up of them on a wall, and it was like a shrine. In my grandmother's house, she had pictures up of everybody but me. And I'm not even saying that to exaggerate, because I have an uncle that's a little bit older than me. He's 2 years older than me. He lived there with her, so he had a picture up. She even still had his baby carriage, okay? And if I, at the time, was 7, he was 9. She still had his baby carriage in the house. Then she also had pictures of my aunt. She didn't have any pictures of my mother, now that I think about it. But, you know, I just did not feel like I was a part of the family because none of my stuff was there. So I was just kind of like, okay. And I figured, like, you know, maybe my mother was going to get her own place, but we didn't have our own place for 8 years after we moved up here. So it was rough. So I'm telling this story to tell this important part because I told this to one of my best friends the other day, and her reaction, I was like, you know what? I need to say this because somebody else probably feels the same way that I feel. So I remember when my last daughter, Legacy, was born. Legacy is 3, right? So when she was born, I remember asking my husband who she looked like, because my daughter Karma, that's 5, she looks just like my husband. She's starting to change a little bit and look like other family members, but she was my husband's twin when she was born. So he goes and looks at Legacy, and he was like, oh, she looks like you. And I remember like cringing, like, oh my gosh, she's ugly, you know? And it takes a lot for me to say that, but I've come to terms with it, and I realized that it wasn't that I thought that she was ugly. I thought I was ugly because that's what was basically spoon-fed to me as a child. So I remember, you know, like when he took a picture, he brought it over for me to see her, and I couldn't really see in the picture who she looked like. So I was like, I just got to see her. So they bring her over to me and they lay her on me. And when I say this was one of the most beautiful babies, I was like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. Then as she started growing in the weeks and the months, she looked like a freaking doll baby. And I was like, she does look like me. She's so beautiful. And then I remember as time went on and she was like months old, and I look at her picture with my baby picture, and people see her, they're like, oh my gosh, that's Tasha all over again. That's Tasha's twin. That's Tasha's twin. She's so pretty. She's so beautiful. And I'm like, thank God she doesn't have to go through the things that I went through, where nobody was telling me how beautiful I was. Even though me and my husband got that covered, okay? My kids know how beautiful they are to us, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says outside because they have their self-esteem, so they feel like they're beautiful to themselves as well. But I just wanted to share that because I can imagine how many other people had that same feeling, you know, about themselves growing up. Like, you know, we can't allow stuff like that to control us. People do things to us that wind up hurting us and taking away our innocence and taking away a lot of things from us because they did not know any better, and they can only do as good with what they had, you know? So I share this, and I hope that this touches someone out there where they can know, like, you look at stuff and you take it for face value for yourself. Don't allow the way that you've been raised or the way that things happen to you to dictate the way that you are going to now act, okay? If I let that happen, I would not be a good mother. I would not be a good friend. I would always be chasing behind a man, you know, because this is the type of stuff that I grew up seeing. I would let people treat me like crap and still give them more of me, hoping that they would finally say, well, you know what? She's still here. Let me go ahead and love her. No. The worth that I got over here, Bill Gates ain't even touching it. Nobody's touching it, okay? That's how confident I am within myself. Yes, I may have days where I may not feel, you know, my best, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to allow anybody to take anything from me, because I know my talents, I know my worth. And I just wanted to share this because I thought that this story can possibly touch the lives of some people. And that's what I'm doing From Hurt to Healed, because I can't be the only one that's going from hurt to healed, and I shouldn't be the only one going from hurt to healed. I need to help other people heal. That's the point of me going through everything I went through. That's why I tell pieces and nuggets of my stories, so y'all can hear it, and I can get DMs the way that I've gotten DMs to say thank you for telling your story. I went through the same thing with my mother or my father, and I'm so grateful to see somebody else went through it and they're shining, you know, and they're doing their best, and they're able to love on their kids even though nobody loved on them, or they're able to be a success story and they don't have another success story to relate to in terms of their family. So I hope this has helped someone.